The back of Emma's head hit the sticky bar floor before she even registered the shove. Pain exploded across her skull as the room tilted sideways, voices blurring into a cacophony of gasps and shuffled feet. Through her swimming vision, she could see him, Derek, her ex-boyfriend, standing over her with that same twisted sneer she'd come to know so well during their last months together. "Think you can just ignore me?" Derek's words slurred together, his breath reeking of whiskey even from where she lay sprawled on the ground. "I've been calling you for weeks, Emma. Weeks!" Her hands trembled as she tried to push herself up, but her palms kept slipping against something wet. Someone's spilled drink, probably. The humiliation burned hotter than the throbbing in her head. Everyone was watching. The entire bar had gone silent, dozens of eyes fixed on her like she was some kind of spectacle. This was supposed to be her fresh start, her first night out in months after finally leaving Derek behind. And here he was, drunk and violent, reducing her to this, a woman sprawled on a filthy floor while strangers gawked. "Derek, please." Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "Just leave me alone." He took a step closer, and Emma's heart seized. She knew that look. She'd seen it 100 times before, right before things got really bad. Her roommate Sarah was somewhere in the crowd, probably trying to push through, but Emma couldn't spot her. She was alone. Again. "You don't get to tell me what to do anymore," Derek spat, reaching down toward her. Then everything changed. A hand. Large, strong, with a gold signet ring catching the dim bar lights, caught Derek's wrist mid-reach. The grip looked almost casual, but Derek's face went white as bone. "You're fucked." The voice was low, quiet even, but it cut through the noise like a blade. Emma looked up to see a man she'd never seen before, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than her car. He was tall, dark-haired, with the kind of sharp, handsome features that belonged on a movie screen. But it was his eyes that made Emma's breath catch, cold, calculating and absolutely merciless as they fixed on Derek. I don't know who you think you are, man, but this is between me and my girlfriend," Derek stammered, trying to yank his arm free. He couldn't. The stranger's grip didn't budge. "Ex-girlfriend," Emma managed to say from the floor, finally finding her voice. "Very ex." The stranger's eyes flicked down to her for just a moment, and something shifted in them. A flash of something almost protective before the ice returned. He looked back at Derek, tilting his head slightly. "You have 3 seconds to apologize to the lady," he said, still in that same quiet tone that somehow felt more threatening than any shout. "And then you're going to walk out of this bar and never come near her again." Derek tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "Or what? You gonna beat me? Up? There are witnesses everywhere, ace-hole." The stranger smiled then. It wasn't a nice smile. "I don't need to beat you up, Derek Martinez of 42 Maple Street, apartment 3B. I just need to make a phone call." He pulled out his phone with his free hand, keeping Derek locked in place. "I wonder what your boss at Henderson Accounting would think about the creative bookkeeping you've been doing, or what the police might find interesting about your weekend activities." Derek's face went from white to green. Who are you?" "Someone you really, really don't want to fuck with." The stranger released Derek's wrist and stepped back, gesturing toward Emma. "Now, apologize." Emma watched, still on the ground as Derek's bravado crumbled completely. He looked down at her, and for the first time in all the months she'd known him, she saw actual fear in his eyes. Not fear of her, of course. Fear of this stranger who knew too much and radiated danger like cologne. Emma, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have pushed you." The words tumbled out fast, desperate. "I won't bother you again, I swear." "Good choice." The stranger nodded toward the door. "Leave." Derek practically ran for the exit, shoving through the crowd of onlookers. The moment he disappeared, the bar erupted in whispers and nervous laughter, people turning back to their drinks and conversations with the forced casualness of those who'd just witnessed something they'd rather forget. Emma was still on the floor. The stranger crouched down beside her, and up close he was even more striking. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that seemed to see everything, a tiny scar above his left eyebrow. He extended his hand to her. "Can you stand?" She took his hand, warm, solid, steady, and let him pull her up. Her legs wobbled, and he kept his grip on her arm until she found her balance. The back of her head was killing her, and she reached up to touch it, wincing. "You're bleeding," he observed, his tone matter-of-fact. "I'm fine," she said automatically, then felt something warm and wet on her fingers. She pulled her hand away and saw red. "Oh, you're not fine." He looked around, spotted her purse on a nearby bar stool where she'd left it before Derek's attack, and retrieved it with efficient grace. "Do you have someone here with you?" "My roommate, Sarah. She's—" Emma scanned the crowd and finally spotted Sarah pushing through, her face pale with worry. "Oh my God, Emma!" Sarah grabbed her shoulders, looking her over frantically. "Are you okay? I saw him push you. I was trying to get to you, but there were so many people." "I'm okay," Emma said, though she wasn't sure that was true. Her head was pounding, and the room still felt like it was tilting slightly. "This man helped me." Sarah looked at the stranger for the first time, and Emma watched her roommate's eyes go wide. "Oh, thank you. Really, thank you so much." "She needs a hospital," the stranger said, ignoring Sarah's gratitude. "That's a head injury." "No hospitals," Emma protested. "I can't afford— I'll take care of it." "What?" "No, I can't let you—" He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Emma felt something strange flutter in her chest. His expression had softened, just slightly, losing some of that dangerous edge. "You hit your head on a concrete floor because a man twice your size assaulted you," he said quietly. "You're getting checked out. I'm not asking." There was something about the way he said it, not cruel or controlling like Derek's commands, but firm, protective even, that made Emma's protests die in her throat. Besides, her head really did hurt. A lot. "Okay," she whispered. He nodded, satisfied, and looked at Sarah. "You coming with us?" "Us?" Sarah blinked. "You're taking her?" "My car's out front. It's faster than waiting for an ambulance and considerably cheaper for her." He placed a gentle hand on Emma's lower back, guiding her toward the door. "Let's go." Emma let herself be led through the crowd, aware of everyone watching them leave. Her mystery rescuer moved through the bar like he owned it, and people simply moved out of his way. Even the bouncer at the door nodded respectfully as they passed. Outside, the cool night air hit Emma's face and made her head swim. She stumbled, and suddenly there was an arm around her waist, holding her up. "Easy," the stranger murmured. "I've got you." A sleek black car was parked right in front of the bar. Illegally, Emma noted distantly, and another man in a dark suit stood beside it. The driver, presumably. He opened the back door without being asked. "Hospital, Marcus," the stranger said, helping Emma into the car. "Fast but smooth. She's injured." "Yes, sir." Sarah climbed in on the other side, and the stranger slid in beside Emma, keeping her steady as the car pulled away from the curb. The interior was all leather and luxury, the kind of vehicle Emma had only ever seen in movies. She felt completely out of place in her simple jeans and sweater, bleeding on this man's expensive upholstery. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "Your car is just a car." He was looking at her head, his jaw tight. "Marcus, faster." "I'm really okay," Emma tried again, but even she could hear how weak she sounded. The adrenaline was wearing off, and everything hurt. Her head, her back where she'd hit the floor, her pride, most of all. "You're not okay." His voice was gentle but firm. "Stop saying you are." They rode in silence for a moment, the city lights blurring past the windows. Emma could feel Sarah staring at them both with barely concealed curiosity. Finally, her roommate cleared her throat. "So, thank you again, Mr. Salvatore," he said, not looking away from Emma. "Dante Salvatore." Emma's remaining coherent brain cell supplied that the name sounded Italian. Expensive Italian. Old money Italian. She wanted to ask what he'd been doing in a dive bar on the bad side of town. Wanted to ask how he'd known so much about Derek. Wanted to ask why he was helping her at all. Instead, what came out was, why? Dante finally looked at her fully, and Emma felt pinned by that dark gaze. Why what? Why are you helping me? You don't know me. Something flickered across his face, an emotion too quick to catch. Let's just say I don't like watching women get hurt by cowards who think they can get away with it. There was a story there, Emma thought. Something deeper. But before she could press further, the car was pulling up to the emergency room entrance of St. Catherine's Hospital, one of the nicest in the city. Definitely not where Emma would have taken herself, even if she'd decided to go. The next hour passed in a blur of doctors and nurses, bright lights, and cold examination rooms. Dante stayed with her the entire time, his presence somehow both commanding and comforting. He spoke to the doctors in low tones, asked pointed questions about her care, and when the bills came up, he handed over a black credit card without blinking. "I'll pay you back," Emma said for the 5th time, as a nurse gently cleaned the wound on her head. "No, you won't," Dante replied from his position leaning against the wall, arms crossed. He'd removed his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves, revealing strong forearms marked with what looked like old scars. "You'll focus on healing." Sarah had gone to get coffee, leaving them alone. The nurse finished up and left with a smile, saying the doctor would be back with results soon. Emma sat on the examination table in a hospital gown, feeling vulnerable and strange. "I don't even know you," she said quietly. "No," Dante agreed. "You don't. But you know things about Derek, personal things. How?" He was quiet for a long moment, and Emma thought he might not answer. Then he pushed off from the wall and came to stand in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to look at him. "I know things about a lot of people," he said carefully. "It's part of what I do." "Which is?" "Complicated." Emma laughed despite herself, then winced as it made her head pound. "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I can give you right now." His hand came up, and for a moment Emma thought he might touch her face, but he stopped himself, fingers curling into a fist. "You should stay away from men like me, Emma." "You still haven't told me your last name," she started, then remembered. "Wait, Salvatore. You said Salvatore." Something in his expression shuddered. "Yes." Emma's mind raced through what she knew about the city, about powerful families, about names that carried weight. Salvatore. She'd heard it before, whispered in certain contexts, always with a mixture of fear and respect. Her eyes widened. "Oh," she breathed. "Oh." "Yeah," Dante said quietly. "Oh." They stared at each other, and Emma knew she should be scared. Everything about this screamed danger. The way people moved for him, the way he'd known Derek's information instantly, the expensive car and unlimited money, that underlying threat in his voice when he'd told Derek he was fucked. This wasn't just some wealthy businessman who'd happened to help her. This was someone from a world she'd only heard about in stories and news reports. She should be terrified. Instead, all she could think was that he'd been nothing but gentle with her, that he'd protected her when no one else had, that he was looking at her right now like she was something precious and breakable, and he was desperately trying not to break her. "I should be afraid of you," she whispered. "Yes," he agreed. "You should." "But I'm not." Dante's jaw tightened. "Then you're not thinking clearly. The head injury." "I'm thinking fine," Emma interrupted. "And I know what you are, what you must be. But you saved me tonight. You're paying my hospital bills. You've been nothing but kind." "Kind," he repeated and laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Emma, I'm not kind. I'm dangerous. I destroy people. That thing with your ex, that was me being merciful. You have no idea what I'm capable of." So show me. The words hung between them, unexpected. Emma wasn't sure where they'd come from, this sudden bravery. Maybe it was the head injury after all, or maybe it was something else. The way he'd looked when he'd helped her up off that floor, the careful way he'd guided her to the car, the protective hand at her back. You don't know what you're asking, Dante said roughly. Then explain it to me. Before he could respond, Sarah burst back through the door holding 2 coffees, her phone pressed to her ear. Emma, your mom's calling. She wants to... Oh. She stopped, looking between them. Am I interrupting? No, Dante said, stepping back quickly, that cold mask sliding back into place. I should go. The doctor will be here soon with your results. Wait, Emma reached out, catching his sleeve. Will I see you again? He looked down at her hand on his arm, then back at her face. For a moment she saw something raw and almost vulnerable in his eyes. You shouldn't want to, he said softly. That's not what I asked. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. No, it's not. He gently removed her hand from his sleeve, but held it for a moment longer. Get better, Emma. Stay away from that ex of yours. If he bothers you again, call this number. He pressed a business card into her palm. Any time, day or night. Then he was gone, slipping out of the examination room like smoke, leaving Emma staring at the card in her hand. It was heavy, expensive cardstock with elegant printing. A phone number, nothing else. No name, no business, nothing to indicate who he was or what he did. Okay, what the hell was that? Sarah demanded, setting down the coffees. Do you know who that man is? Dante Salvatore, Emma said softly, still looking at the card. Sarah's face went pale. Salvatore, as in the Salvatore family? I think so. Emma, those people are... Sarah lowered her voice to a whisper. They're in the Mafia, like actual organized crime. Everyone knows it, even if no one can prove it. I know. And he helped you? Why would he help you? Emma tucked the card into her purse carefully, feeling its weight like a promise. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. The doctor came back with good news. No concussion, just a nasty bump that would heal. They gave her care instructions and painkillers, and soon Emma and Sarah were in a taxi heading home, courtesy of yet another $100 bill Dante had apparently given to Sarah when Emma wasn't looking. That night, lying in her bed with an ice pack on her head, Emma stared at the card on her nightstand. She should throw it away. Should forget this entire night. Forget the dangerous man with the protective eyes and careful hands. Should go back to her normal life, her boring job, her safe routine. Instead, she picked up her phone. The text took her 10 minutes to compose, deleting and rewriting over and over. Finally, she settled on something simple. Thank you for tonight. I'm okay. Emma. She hit send before she could second-guess herself, then waited, heart pounding. Maybe he wouldn't respond. Maybe he'd blocked the number already, putting this strange encounter behind him as just another night in his complicated life. Her phone buzzed 30 seconds later. Good. Don't go to that bar again. Not safe. Emma smiled despite herself and typed back, What bar would you recommend instead? This response took longer. She watched the dots appear and disappear several times, imagining him on the other end, trying to decide how to answer. Finally, I don't think you want my recommendations. Why not? Because you shouldn't be anywhere I am. What if I want to be? The dots appeared again, stayed for almost a minute, then disappeared. No response came. Emma set her phone down, disappointed, but not surprised. She'd pushed too hard, been too forward. Of course he wasn't interested. He'd helped her out of some sense of honor or justice, nothing more. Her phone buzzed again, just as she was drifting off to sleep. You have no idea what you're saying. Get some rest, Emma. We'll talk about this when your head's clearer. She fell asleep, smiling, the card tucked under her pillow like a talisman. The next week passed in a strange sort of limbo. Emma went back to her job at the bookstore, explaining her bruises and healing cut as a stupid accident, which wasn't entirely untrue. Derek didn't call or text, didn't show up at her work or apartment. For the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe without looking over her shoulder, and she couldn't stop thinking about Dante Salvatore. She'd done some research, carefully, finding bits and pieces online. The Salvatore family was old. Money, very old, with business interests that seemed to span half the city. Officially, they ran restaurants, construction companies, and several other legitimate enterprises. Unofficially, well, the rumors were extensive and dark. Protection rackets, underground gambling, connections to everything from union corruption to political manipulation. And Dante was at the center of it all, the current head of the family after his father's death 3 years ago. There were photos online, grainy paparazzi shots from charity galas and business events. He always looked the same: expensive suit, cold eyes, powerful stance, untouchable. Emma knew she should forget him, knew that whatever strange connection she'd felt that night was just adrenaline and trauma and the natural appeal of someone who'd saved her. She knew that men like Dante Salvatore didn't date bookstore clerks who lived paycheck to paycheck in tiny apartments. She knew all of this intellectually. Her heart apparently hadn't gotten the message. She kept the card in her purse and found herself looking at it throughout the day, running her fingers over the embossed numbers. She didn't text him again, didn't call, but she thought about it, constantly. 8 days after the incident, Emma was closing up the bookstore alone. Her boss had left early for a family emergency, when she heard the bell above the door chime. She looked up from counting the register, ready to say they were closed, and the words died in her throat. Dante Salvatore stood in the doorway of her little bookstore, looking impossibly out of place in his immaculate charcoal suit among the worn paperbacks and creaky wooden shelves. He'd found her, or had he known where she worked all along? Given what he'd known about Derek, Emma suspected the latter. "Hi," she managed, her heart suddenly racing. "Hi." He stepped inside, letting the door close behind him. "You're alone." "Boss left early. I'm just finishing up." She set down the stack of bills she'd been counting, no longer able to focus on numbers. "How's your head?" "Better. Almost healed." Emma touched the spot unconsciously, now just a small scab hidden by her hair. "How did you know where I work?" "I know a lot of things." He walked deeper into the store, hands in his pockets, looking at the shelves without really seeing them. "It's not safe, you being here alone at night." "I've done it 100 times. That doesn't make it safe." Emma came around from behind the counter, maintaining some distance but drawn to him like gravity. "Did you come here to lecture me about safety?" "No." He turned to face her fully, and Emma's breath caught at the intensity in his eyes. "I came here because I've spent 8 days trying to forget you, and I can't." The honesty of it stole her words. They stared at each other across the bookstore aisle, tension crackling between them like electricity. "I told myself you were better off without me," Dante continued, voice low and rough. "That the smart thing, the right thing, was to leave you alone, let you go back to your normal life. But I can't stop thinking about you." He took a step closer. "The way you looked at me in that hospital. Not afraid, even when you should have been. The text you sent. I've never..." He broke off, jaw tight. "Women don't usually look at me the way you do. How do I look at you? Like I'm a man instead of a monster." Emma closed the remaining distance between them, her heart hammering so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Maybe because that's what you are." "You don't know what I've done, Emma. The things I'm responsible for. So tell me." "I can't." Frustration crossed his features. "Not without putting you in danger. There are rules, protocols. People who know about me, my family, my business. They become targets. Leverage. I can't make you that. What if I'm willing to take that risk?" Dante reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in one large hand. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "What if I'm not?" he whispered. Emma leaned into his touch, feeling the calluses on his palm. the warmth of his skin. Then why are you here? Because 8 days was my limit, apparently. His other hand came up to frame her face, tilting it up toward him. I needed to see you. Needed to make sure you were okay. And I needed to tell you, in person, that you should stay away from me. That's the second time you've told me that, Emma pointed out, but you keep showing up. I know. He smiled slightly, sadly. I'm a hypocrite. Or maybe, Emma said softly, daringly placing her hands on his chest, feeling his heart beat rapid and strong under her palms. You don't really want me to stay away. What I want, Dante said roughly, and what's good for you are two very different things. Let me decide what's good for me. They were so close now, his face inches from hers, his breath warm against her lips. Emma had never wanted anything as much as she wanted him to close that final distance, to kiss her, to stop treating her like she was made of glass, and claim what they both clearly wanted. If I start this, he warned, voice dropping even lower, I won't want to stop. I won't be able to walk away again. Do you understand? I'm not a casual man, Emma. I don't do halfway. Good, she breathed. Neither do I. That broke his restraint. His mouth came down on hers, and Emma felt herself catch fire. The kiss was everything. Desperate and gentle at once, taking and giving. His hands still cradling her face like she was precious, while his mouth claimed hers thoroughly. Emma made a soft sound and pressed closer, her fingers curling into his shirt, and Dante groaned against her lips. He walked her backward until her back hit the bookshelf, paperbacks shifting behind her, and kissed her deeper, one hand sliding into her hair. Emma's entire world narrowed to this, his body against hers, his taste, his warmth, the way he kissed her like she was air and he was drowning. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. This is a mistake, he murmured, but his arms were still wrapped around her. Best mistake I ever made, Emma countered, smiling. He pulled back to look at her, and Emma saw something in his eyes that made her heart skip. Possessiveness mixed with something almost like wonder. You have no idea what you're getting into, he said. Then show me. No more pushing me away, no more trying to protect me from you. I'm not a child, Dante. I can make my own choices. He studied her face for a long moment, searching for something. Whatever he found must have satisfied him, because he nodded slowly. Okay, he said quietly, but we do this right. I'm not sneaking around, not hiding you. If you're mine, everyone knows it. That's the only way I can keep you safe. The possessive words should have bothered her, Emma thought distantly. Instead, they sent a thrill through her entire body. Yours? If you'll have me. His thumb traced her lower lip. All of me, everything that comes with it. The danger, the complications, the life I lead. I won't lie to you or hide things. Well, he amended, not any more than I absolutely have to for your safety. Can you live with that? Emma thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. Thought about her safe, boring life before, the fear of Derek, the endless sameness of her days. Then she thought about Dante standing over her in that bar, the protective rage in his eyes, the gentle way he'd cared for her in the hospital, the desperation in his voice when he'd said he couldn't forget her. Yes, she said simply. Dante kissed her again, slower this time, thorough and possessive and perfect. When he pulled back, he kept her close, one arm around her waist. I'll have someone watch the store every night you close alone, he said. Dante. Non-negotiable. You're mine now, Emma, which makes you a target to anyone who wants to get to me. I protect what's mine. She should argue, should resist the high-handed protectiveness. But the way he said mine made her knees weak. Okay, she agreed. But I have conditions too. His eyebrow rose. Oh? I want honesty. As much as you can give me. I want to understand your world, even if I can't be part of certain aspects. And I want respect. This isn't me becoming some gangster's doll or trophy. I'm still me, still independent. Deal. He didn't even hesitate. Anything else? Yes. Emma smiled up at him. Take me to dinner. Somewhere public, somewhere people can see us together. If I'm going to be yours, as you put it, then you can be mine too. Publicly. Something fierce and satisfied crossed his face. Tomorrow night, I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something nice. Trying to dress me already? Just want to show you off, he said, then grinned. A real smile that transformed his whole face, making him look younger, happier. And maybe keep other men from getting ideas. Possessive. Extremely, he agreed without shame. Get used to it. Emma laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. This was crazy, completely insane. She was starting a relationship with a man who was probably a crime lord, whose world she didn't understand, whose enemies could become her enemies. She should be terrified. Instead, she felt safe for the first time since Derek had started showing his true colors. Protected. Chosen. I should finish closing, she said reluctantly. I'll wait, drive you home. They worked together, Emma counting the money while Dante watched the door, a silent guardian in expensive Italian shoes. When they left, there was indeed a car waiting. Not the luxury sedan from before, but a similarly sleek black vehicle with another suited driver. Dante kept his hand at the small of her back as they walked to the car, a public claim that made Emma's cheeks flush. Anyone watching would know exactly what was happening here. She belonged to him now. The thought should have bothered her. Instead, it made her feel claimed in the best possible way. He drove her home, walked her to her door despite her protests that he didn't need to. At her threshold, he kissed her again, slow and deep and promising. Tomorrow, he murmured against her lips. 7 sharp. I'll be ready. Wear the blue dress, he said, then caught her confused expression. The one hanging in your closet. Second from the left. Emma's eyes widened. Have you been in my apartment? I've had people checking on your safety since that night. He didn't look apologetic. Making sure your ex stayed away, that you were healing properly. The dress looked good in the photos. You had people taking photos in my apartment? Emma should be outraged. Should be angry about this invasion of privacy. For your safety, Dante said calmly. If that's a deal breaker, tell me now. Emma thought about it, weighing her independence against the reality of who he was, what kind of protection his world might require. Finally, she sighed. No more photos, but I understand the security concerns. Just ask me first next time. I'll tell you what you need to know. He looked surprised, then pleased. You're taking this better than I expected. I'm adaptable. She smiled. And I meant what I said. I want to understand your world. That includes the paranoid security measures. Not paranoid if they're really after you, he said, but kissed her forehead gently. I'll ask first from now on. Promise. Good. Now go before Sarah comes out and demands to know everything. Tomorrow, Emma. One last kiss, quick and hard. You're mine now. Don't forget it. I won't, she whispered, and watched him walk back to his car, the dangerous, powerful man who'd somehow decided she was worth protecting, worth keeping, worth everything. The next night, Emma did wear the blue dress, a simple but elegant sheath that hugged her curves and made her eyes pop. She'd spent an hour on her hair and makeup, wanting to look perfect for their first real date. Sarah had helped, simultaneously thrilled and terrified about the whole situation. Just promise me you know what you're doing, Sarah had said while applying Emma's lipstick with a steady hand. I have no idea what I'm doing, Emma admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. That's either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. When Dante knocked at exactly 7 o'clock, Emma's heart did a little flip. She opened the door to find him in a black suit with a dark blue tie that matched her dress, a coordinated touch that made her smile. "You look stunning," he said, his eyes traveling over her with open appreciation. "You clean up nice yourself." He offered his arm, old-fashioned and charming, and led her downstairs to yet another car. This one was even more impressive than the previous vehicles, a vintage Rolls-Royce that gleamed under the streetlights. "Showing off?" Emma teased as he helped her into the back seat. "Absolutely." He slid in beside her, keeping her hand in his. "Only the best for my girl." My girl. The words sent warmth flooding through her chest. They drove to a restaurant Emma had only read about in magazines, Villa Toscana, one of the most exclusive Italian restaurants in the city. There was apparently a 3-month waiting list for reservations. Naturally, they walked right in, the host greeting Dante by name and leading them to what was clearly the best table in the house, tucked in a private corner with a perfect view of the entire restaurant. "You come here often?" Emma asked once they were seated. "I own it," Dante said casually, then smiled at her expression. "Part of my legitimate business interests. The food's actually good. I'm not just saying that because it's mine." A waiter appeared with wine before they'd even ordered, pouring something that probably cost more than Emma made in a week. Throughout the meal, she was hyper-aware of people watching them, subtle glances from other diners, whispered conversations, curious looks. Some people recognized Dante and quickly looked away. Others stared openly until his security detail subtly encouraged them to stop. "Does this bother you?" Dante asked, cutting into his steak. "The attention?" "A little," Emma admitted. "I'm not used to people knowing who I am." "They don't know you. They know who you're with." His eyes met hers across the table. "But they'll learn. By tomorrow, everyone who matters in this city will know that Emma Clark belongs to Dante Salvatore." "Is that going to cause problems?" "Probably." He reached across the table to take her hand. "My world isn't easy, Emma. There are people who will see you as a weakness, a way to get to me. There are rivals who might try to use you for leverage. That's why I need you to understand the reality here. You'll have security following you now. Always. It's not optional. Bodyguards? Discreet ones. You won't always see them, but they'll be there. At your work, your apartment, anywhere you go. It's the only way I can be with you without spending every second terrified something will happen to you." Emma squeezed his hand. "That's a lot of fear." "You have no idea." His voice was rough. "When I saw you on that floor, saw him standing over you." He broke off, jaw tight. "I've done terrible things in my life, Emma. Things that would horrify you. But in that moment, if he'd hurt you any worse, there wouldn't have been enough of him left to identify." The words should have frightened her. Instead, Emma felt that same thrill of being claimed, protected, chosen by someone who clearly didn't choose lightly. "I can live with security," she said quietly, "if it means being with you." Relief flashed across his face. "You say that now. I mean it. I told you last night, Dante. I'm not walking into this blind or naive. I know what you are, what your world is. And I'm choosing it anyway, choosing you." He brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles with devastating tenderness. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not," Emma agreed with a smile. "But you've got me anyway." The rest of dinner passed in easy conversation, Dante telling her about his legitimate businesses, his family history, the weight of being the head of a dynasty he hadn't asked to inherit. Emma shared her own story, the bookstore job she loved despite the terrible pay, her dreams of maybe owning her own shop someday, her relief at finally being free of Derek. "About that," Dante said over dessert. "He won't bother you again. You sound very certain." "I am. I made it clear what would happen if he came near you, and I have people watching him to make sure he follows instructions." His tone was casual, but Emma heard the steel underneath. "What did you threaten him with?" "The truth. He's been embezzling from his firm for 2 years. I have documentation. One word from me, and he goes to prison. He knows it." "How did you find that out so fast?" Dante shrugged. "I have resources. When I want information on someone, I get it." "Did you run a background check on me too?" "Yes." He didn't even pretend otherwise. The night we met, before I took you to the hospital, I knew your full name, address, employment history, financial status, and criminal record. I don't have a criminal record. I know, it was disappointingly boring. He smiled at her indignant expression. Emma, it's what I do. Information is power in my world. I needed to know you weren't a plant, weren't connected to my enemies, weren't going to cause problems. And you're exactly what you appear to be. A genuinely good person who got mixed up with a bad man and deserves better. He reached across the table again. Someone I couldn't stop thinking about. Someone worth breaking my own rules for. What rules? No civilians, no relationships outside the family business. Nothing that could be used against me. His thumb stroked across her wrist. You break every single rule, Emma. And I don't care. They left the restaurant an hour later, Dante's arm around her waist, and Emma noticed the flash of cameras from across the street. Paparazzi. Great. Ignore them, Dante murmured, guiding her to the car. They're always around. Will this be in the papers tomorrow? Probably. Does that bother you? Emma thought about it as they drove through the city. Ask me tomorrow when I see the headlines. He laughed, a real warm sound that made her smile. Fair enough. They ended up at his place, a penthouse apartment that took up the entire top floor of a building in the most expensive part of downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city lights. The interior was all modern luxury, tasteful and masculine, and somehow still warm. This is incredible, Emma breathed, walking to the windows. Dante came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. It's home, or it has been. Lately, it's felt empty. She leaned back against him. And now? Now it feels right. He turned her in his arms, looking down at her seriously. Stay tonight, not for... He paused. I'm not expecting anything. I just want you here. Want to wake up and know you're safe under my roof. What about my roommate? Already texted her while you were in the bathroom at dinner. She knows you're with me. Emma should probably be annoyed at his high-handedness. Instead, she found it endearing. You're very efficient. I told you, when I want something, I don't do halfway. His hands framed her face. And I want you, Emma. All in, completely. Are you sure you're ready for that? In answer, Emma pulled him down and kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it. The trust, the desire, the terrifying certainty that she was falling for him way too fast. Dante groaned against her mouth and lifted her effortlessly, carrying her to the bedroom while she wrapped her legs around his waist. That night, wrapped in his arms in sheets that probably cost more than her rent, Emma felt safer than she'd ever felt in her life. Dangerous, powerful Dante Salvatore held her like she was precious, kissed her like she was oxygen, and whispered promises against her skin that should have terrified her. Instead, she fell asleep smiling. The next morning, Emma woke to sunlight streaming through massive windows and the smell of coffee. She padded out of the bedroom in one of Dante's shirts to find him in the kitchen, somehow making breakfast while simultaneously on a phone call that sounded very much like business. He spotted her, and his expression softened immediately. I'll call you back, he said into the phone, then hung up without waiting for a response. Morning, beautiful. Morning. Emma accepted the coffee he handed her, perfectly made with the exact amount of cream she liked. How did you know how I take my coffee? I pay attention. He kissed her forehead. Hungry? I made pancakes. You cook? I'm Italian. Of course I cook. He set a plate in front of her at the breakfast bar, stacked with perfect fluffy pancakes. Eat, then I need to tell you something. The seriousness in his tone made Emma's stomach clench. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, but the photos from last night are everywhere. You're going to see headlines. He pulled out his phone, showing her a gossip site with a headline that read, Salvatore Dynasty's Dangerous Romance. Crime Boss Claims Mystery Woman. Below it was a photo of them leaving the restaurant, Dante's arm protective around her waist, both of them looking at each other with obvious affection. Emma had to admit they looked good together. "Crime boss," she said mildly. "That's subtle. They can't prove anything, so they word it carefully." He watched her face anxiously. "Are you okay with this? Once you're in the public eye as mine, there's no taking it back." Emma studied the photo, thinking about what it meant. This was real now. Public. No hiding, no pretending, no backing out. Tomorrow, everyone would know she was with Dante Salvatore, whatever that meant, whatever danger that brought. She looked up at him, at this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man who'd crashed into her life and refused to leave. "I'm okay with it," she said. "More than okay." The relief on his face was palpable. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "You're sure? Because Emma, once you're mine in the eyes of my world, that's it. There's no casual dating, no seeing where things go. You're under my protection, my claim, forever." Forever's a big word. "I'm a big commitment guy." He pulled back to look at her seriously. "I want everything with you. Not eventually. Now. I want you here, in my life, by my side. I want everyone to know you're untouchable, because you're mine. And yeah, that's fast and probably crazy, but I don't care. I've waited 35 years to feel this way about someone. Now that I have, I'm not letting go." Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. This was insane. They'd known each other for barely more than a week. She should pump the brakes, should slow things down, should be sensible. "I want that too," she heard herself say. "All of it." Dante kissed her then, hard and claiming, lifting her onto the counter and stepping between her legs. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "Move in with me," he said. "I know it's fast, but you'll be safer here, better protected. And I'll stop going crazy every time you're not where I can see you. My lease, I'll buy you out of it, or buy the building, whatever it takes." He wasn't joking. Say yes, Emma. She should say no, should maintain some independence, some sense of self-preservation. Should not move in with a man she'd known for 8 days, no matter how much she was falling for him. "Yes," she whispered. The smile that broke across his face was beautiful. "Yeah? Yeah, but I'm keeping my bookstore job. I'm not going to be some kept woman who does nothing all day." "Fine by me. I like that you work. Just promise me you'll let security do their job." "I promise. And you'll tell me if anything feels wrong, if anyone approaches you, if you feel unsafe at all. I promise. And you'll wear this." He pulled a box from his pocket. Apparently he'd been carrying it around, waiting for the right moment, and opened it to reveal a necklace with a delicate pendant. "It has a GPS tracker and a panic button. Press it if you're ever in trouble, and my people will be there in under 3 minutes." Emma took the necklace, examining the beautiful pendant that hid such practical functionality. "You really are paranoid." "Protective," he corrected. "There's a difference." She let him fasten it around her neck, feeling the weight of it settle between her collarbones like a promise, a claim, a shield. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we live our lives. Together." He kissed her softly. "I go to work, you go to work. We come home to each other. I'll introduce you to my family, my world. You'll meet my mother. Fair warning, she's intense. And my sisters, who will absolutely grill you. We'll figure out this crazy thing between us one day at a time." "Your family knows about me?" "They will by lunch," he grinned. "Ma called this morning demanding to know who the woman in the photos was. I told her you're the one. She wants to meet you this Sunday." "The one," Emma repeated. "You told your mother I'm the one?" "Because you are." He said it with such certainty, such absolute conviction that Emma's breath caught. "I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I've never been more sure of anything. You're it for me, Emma Clark. End of story." Tears pricked her eyes, happy tears, overwhelmed tears. "You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're brave, even when you're scared. I know you're kind to everyone, even people who don't deserve it. I know you work a job you love instead of chasing money. I know you looked at me, knowing what I am, what I do, and chose me anyway. That's all I need to know." Emma kissed him, tasting salt from her tears and coffee and promise. When they pulled apart, she smiled through the wet on her cheeks. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Good, that means you're smart." He wiped away her tears with gentle thumbs. "But I've got you, always. No one touches what's mine. And you, Emma. You're mine now, completely. Possessive. Extremely," he agreed again, unrepentant. "Get used to it." Emma laughed, feeling light and terrified, and happier than she'd ever been. This was crazy. This was dangerous. This was probably going to blow up her entire life. She couldn't wait. 3 months later, Emma stood in front of a mirror in Dante's, their bedroom, adjusting the diamonds at her throat. Real diamonds, not the pendant GPS tracker she still wore every day. These were special. Anniversary diamonds, Dante had called them, though they'd only been together 3 months. In his world, 3 months was apparently long enough to mark with serious jewelry. She heard him come up behind her before she felt his arms wrap around her waist, familiar and warm and home. "You look stunning," he murmured, pressing a kiss to her bare shoulder. "Though you always do." "Flatterer." But she smiled, leaning back against him. They'd both gotten dressed up for a charity gala tonight, one of the many society events Dante had to attend as the head of his family. Emma had gotten used to them over the past few months, though she still found the whole high society thing slightly surreal. "Ready?" he asked. "As I'll ever be." The gala was predictably extravagant. Champagne, designer gowns, the city's elite mingling under crystal chandeliers. Emma had met most of them by now, had learned to navigate the careful social dynamics, who to avoid, and who was actually decent once you got past the pretense. She'd also met Dante's family, his sharp, formidable mother who'd surprisingly taken to Emma immediately, his 2 younger sisters who'd been equally curious and protective, his various cousins and uncles involved in the family business. They'd all tested her in their own ways, looking for weakness, for gold-digging tendencies, for any sign she wasn't good enough for their Dante. Apparently, she'd passed. Last week, his mother had started calling her daughter and asking pointed questions about when there would be a wedding. Emma hadn't known how to answer. She and Dante hadn't talked about marriage, despite living together, despite the intensity of their relationship, despite everyone treating them as essentially married already. She wanted to marry him. God, she wanted that more than anything. But she didn't want to pressure him, didn't want to assume. Halfway through the gala, Dante excused them from a conversation with a politician's wife and led Emma to a quieter corner. He looked nervous, which was so unlike him that Emma immediately worried. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing's wrong." He took both her hands in his. "Emma, these last 3 months have been the best of my life. You've turned my world upside down in the best possible way. You make me laugh. You keep me grounded. You look at me like I'm a man instead of a monster, even when you've seen the worst parts of me. Dante, let me finish." He smiled slightly. "I love you. I've loved you since that first night, if I'm honest. I've loved you every day since, and I can't imagine my life without you in it." Emma's heart started racing. Around them, she was dimly aware that people were starting to notice their conversation, turning to watch. Dante's security had quietly cleared a space around them, keeping others at a distance, but not out of sight. 3 months ago, Dante continued, his voice carrying now, public and clear, I met a woman who changed everything. She was brave, beautiful, kind. She looked at me and saw past the reputation, past the danger, past everything I thought would keep me alone forever. She chose me, knowing everything, and kept choosing me every day after. He released one of her hands and reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Emma's breath stopped entirely. "Emma Clark," Dante said, dropping to one knee right there in the middle of the charity gala while the entire room watched. You are the love of my life, my partner, my home, my future. I can't promise you easy, and I can't promise you safe, but I can promise you that I will love you fiercely, protect you completely, and choose you every single day for the rest of my life. He opened the box, revealing a ring that took Emma's breath away. A perfect diamond surrounded by sapphires, elegant and stunning, and so perfectly her taste that she knew he'd chosen it carefully. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife, my family, mine forever? Emma realized she was crying, tears streaming down her face as she looked down at this dangerous, powerful man kneeling before her in front of everyone who mattered in the city, making a public declaration, claiming her completely, making himself vulnerable for her. Yes, she sobbed, laughing and crying at once. Yes. Yes, absolutely, yes. The room erupted in applause as Dante stood and slid the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into his arms and kissed her thoroughly, publicly, possessively. When they broke apart, he was grinning like Emma had never seen. You're mine, he said against her lips. Forever now. No taking it back. I don't want to take it back. She kissed him again. I love you too, Dante. So much. Mrs. Salvatore, he murmured, testing the name. God, I love the sound of that. Not yet, Emma teased, though her heart sang at hearing it. Soon. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips again. As soon as I can arrange it. I'm not waiting any longer than necessary to make you legally, officially, permanently mine. Later that night, back in their penthouse, with the ring glittering on her finger, Emma stood at the windows, looking out at the city. Dante came up behind her, wrapping her in his arms, and they stood there together in comfortable silence. Do you ever regret it? He asked quietly. That night at the bar? Saying yes to all of this? Emma thought about everything that had happened. The danger, the scrutiny, the dramatic changes to her life, the security guards, the public attention, the weight of being with someone like Dante. The fear that sometimes gripped her when he came home late, the knowledge that his world would always carry risks. Then she thought about the love, the protection, the way he looked at her like she was his entire world, the way he'd given her safety, respect, partnership, the way he made her laugh, challenged her mind, supported her dreams, the way he'd promised her forever and meant it. Never, she said firmly. Not even once. Dante held her tighter. Good, because you're stuck with me now. Promise. Promise. He turned her in his arms, looking down at her with all the love in the world shining in his dark eyes. Forever, Emma. You and me. Forever, she agreed, and kissed her dangerous, devoted, utterly perfect fiancé under the city lights. 3 months ago, she'd been knocked to the floor of a bar by her drunk ex, humiliated and afraid. Now she was standing in a penthouse wearing an engagement ring, loved and protected, and chosen by the most powerful man in the city. Sometimes, Emma thought, the best things came from the worst moments. Sometimes the most dangerous men had the gentlest hearts. And sometimes, love found you in the last place you expected it. On a dirty bar floor with a stranger standing over you saying 3 simple words. You're fucked. She'd thought he meant Derek. Turns out he'd meant her heart, and she'd never been happier to be wrong.